Now today in the shop, we're going to buff out the side covers that we made from carbon fiber. That's going to take up part of the day, but then we're going to try to get them installed. And as I laid this out in my mind, I wasn't quite sure how much of a shop session this would take. But what happened is by the end of the day, I had time to shoot some nice pictures outside to show how these looked once they were installed and help me plan for the next part of this job. Now the goal today in the shop is going to be to get the parts that we sanded yesterday buffed out. We made the mounts yesterday, so those mounts should be ready to put in. Do whatever shimming is necessary, get it all put together. And if we have enough time left over, take it outside, see what it looks like all put together for this step of the project, and then plan the next part, the next thing we're going to be doing to the bike. And keep in mind, spring is coming. We actually have a nice day out here. I'm surprised that it's as nice as it is. It'll be a great day to shoot some photos. So when we ended this project yesterday, the epoxy was drying on the mounts that we made. We're going to grind that, get that all cleaned up, polished up. That'll be ready to install, but we need to do the buffing next. And it looks like we're right on schedule to have this bike done by spring, the real riding season, probably a month from now. But in the meantime, anytime I could sneak out and get a ride, of course I do. And we're coming up on the end of a long cold winter, that's for sure. It's time to start looking into seed catalogs here at the farm. And it's really a beautiful time of year when we get to the time of year where we don't have to deal with the ice on the pond every day. That's always a nice upgrade. Now, yesterday's video, I was not sure how I was going to do this, and I'm kind of glad I got it done because that epoxy is dry right now. I could finalize those parts, and I'm not sure if I have to do any shimming or not. I'm not sure how this exactly is going to play out, but I'm very optimistic that by the end of the day, we'll have them buffed out and installed. So the material we're going to use is the clear weld, the JB weld available at Lowe's. These parts, I want to get the edges all sanded down nice and smooth. And what I did at the end of the day yesterday, I polished up the top because that's the part you're going to see. And not that it really matters, it'll be under the seat, but I had time to do it yesterday once that epoxy dried. So I wanted to make these brackets as workmanlike as possible. I wanted to get the edges all deburred and cleaned and no sharp edges on it while I'm working on it. I didn't want to take a chance that would scratch me or, God forbid, scratch the paint. So I did a really nice job of radiusing everything off and making them, even though you're not going to see them, when I was done with them, I was kind of proud the way they came out, and they worked exactly as planned. Okay, yesterday we flat sanded these out with 2000 grit, and we're ready to buff them out right now. There's so many good products on the market. I've tried a lot of them. This is the one I like the best, but all the other ones definitely work. The Meguiar's, the one Dale donated to us, but I just am comfortable. This is the devil I know. And this works well by hand or by machine. These parts we're just going to do by hand to make it easy. Now what I always do, and I try to do it on every video religiously, is do one thing in real time. We want to do a little spot of this in real time. Gets a little boring, but you can get some feel for how much time gets involved. The part is totally flat sanded, and we're going to take one little spot. Doesn't have to be big because this comes up right away, very quickly in fact. And on a thing like this, it almost doesn't pay to use a machine because if you catch an edge or something, and then you have a touch-up. Where you do it by hand, a lot of times, in the end, it's just as long. The amount of effort if you have to do a little touch-up or a buff-through spot. Now, this material, I've had such good luck with it. And it's a combination of things. It's the stuff Mark Morgan, the Endasa 2000. It doesn't seem to matter what clear we use. We've used 5-star, we use Gavin's, the American. The clear doesn't seem to matter. They all seem to be pretty similar in the ability to get them to buff out. But these parts are going to be focal parts of the motorcycle, so I'd like them to be really as nice as possible. Let me just show this real quick. No camera cuts, show it in real time. How long it takes to get that to start coming up. Now, maybe we're a little shy on that, I don't know, but it's certainly coming up quicker than you think. The buffing on the two parts went pretty straightforward. We had them hanging up by heating vents. That extra day makes the buffing just a little bit easier. Even if you sand it ahead of time, put it back up by the heating vent. The paint gets harder and harder, and as the paint gets harder and harder, it buffs out easier and easier, and just saves a little work. And in this case, the 8065, and that's the polish of choice, it just goes relatively quickly. I got rid of the handles on these. I was holding them apart. I thought it made it a little bit easier just to leave them on. I have to scuff up the back and get rid of that because that's going to be a bond surface for the epoxy. And when I got done with both of them, I was pretty happy the way they came out. I always take a few pictures for my reference and years from now so I can remember how much fun I had doing this. Actually, this little project, it took a few days, more than I thought, but it was worth it. So it looks like the exact thickness of a paint stick is the amount that needs to get shimmed away from the battery box. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of this stick, make a shim for the back, so that'll be nice and solid. And then we can start fitting that piece in. And if that piece then can be shimmed forward and backward. So with that, it has the look of it. That's going to be pretty close to exactly what we want right there. And one of the critical things is to get this to fit nice and flat right up against the battery box, because we're going to put some epoxy on it. I want to get a good joint. And this is going to work out just better than I ever thought it would. But I'm getting it so it just fits down and the part just lays the way I want it to, right in between the tubes. And it's just going to take a little time working with the shim to get this exactly the way I want it. But the good thing is, once it's done forever. Now, because it's cold out here, I have to take into account the epoxy is going to take quite a while to dry, even 5-minute epoxy. That fits right in there perfectly, and I've got the same amount of clearance. The shim is taking that into account. And now, the final thing, to see if we have this exactly the way we want it. It's time consuming to get this all right. Ooh, when it's done, that's going to look nice. I'm really happy with that. So what I told you is just wipe that battery box with acetone so that this gets a good grip. Now the good news about this epoxy, it's 165 degrees. With a hairdryer, you can heat that part. That will not burn the paint off. And just get it warm. If I ever want to pull this, just pull it apart. An example to service that. But I understand these things don't need a lot of service. This is definitely going to take longer than it would if it was 80 degrees out, but we're prepared to sit here and babysit this while it kicks off. And I have the hairdryer just in case. Now I tried to warm everything up with the quartz heater, and I've been using the heat from the quartz heater and the hairdryer just to hold this in position, babysit it while it dries. And I'm sure that's going to be at least 5 or 10 minutes in this temperature, because it's chilly. I'm not sure what the temperature is, but it's cold. So we're ready for the final dry fit. That piece is in there solid as a rock. This, I hope, is just going to be exactly the same, and we'll have to do the babysit thing. And a piece of tape on there holds it that I can maneuver it around a little bit. Definitely worked out better than I thought it would. Well, the first side is done, and I'm just going to give that another 5 minutes for that epoxy to totally cure. It's solid now, but I want to make sure that I'll put a little heat on it just to make sure it's as solid as can be before I go on to the other side. And that really did work out well. Now this motorcycle and this project, the name of the whole tune is Small Details. There's just loads of small details, and every one of them adds up in the very end. Now the other side is pretty much redundant, and I'm going to try to get that done and try to get a photo shoot in today. It looks like we have an acceptable day, but it's cold. I was hoping it'd be a lot warmer out here. Well, maybe tomorrow. Well, as always happens when you do two sides of something, the second side always goes a little faster. And thank you to the quartz heater. But we want to put the bike back together, put the seat on, and try to get some pictures. It's kind of cloudy, but I think we'll be able to get some pictures how this is going to look. You think that was easy until you go to do it. It's like the famous saying is, everybody is a great parent until they have children. And that's true. Now, it should be perfect timing for a photo shoot. The sun is out, but it's not bright. I just can't wait to see this in some pictures down by my computer, which is always the purpose of every photo shoot, is to look at the pictures from different angles and, of course, then plan the next part of the project. And every step of the things we've done to the bike so far, I've done that way with the help of John Poth here and some photoshopping, and he's been teaching me Photoshop, but I'm a slow learner. Now, the purpose that I use for any photo shoot is just to get a lot of pictures down on my computer. And once I have them down by my computer, I'm able to look at them for an extended amount of time. Now, I could walk out in the driveway and just walk around and look at this from a lot of different angles, but I find it a lot better if I can bring them down into my computer and look at them from every possible different way, look at them from different angles, and look at what I want to do next with the motorcycle. Now, because I've done it on a piece-by-piece basis, I've started with the very beginning, and then what part did I want to do first, what second, what third, and all along the way. And I think as I'm at this point in the project, it's getting harder and harder to find things that I really want to do. Now, I wanted to change the screening and the scoops, but I haven't found any good screening. I wanted to do a little more polishing on the exhaust. I did some the other day, but there's still more to do. There's still parts I haven't been able to make a proper tool for, or an extension for a tool. But looking at it from this angle, it seems like I've got most of the parts that you really see. So sometimes what happens when you do a photo shoot, like the wheels, you got to look at the wheels all day, down in a cellar or out in the garage. You take them out in the sun, and as the sun hits them from different angles, or that the color changes as it gets cloudy or sunny, or like this logo right behind the gas cap. I've been trying to use that somewhere in a paint job, but I haven't been able to find any place that it looks like I would want it to be there. So, and I don't want any stickers on the bike. If I'm going to do anything, I want it to be paint, that's for sure. Another thing, I'm always surprised at how anything, any motorcycle, anything, a car, can look very different from one angle. From one angle it looks a certain way, another way it looks too long, one way it looks like it has too many sharp edges, one way it looks short and squatty or whatever. And I guess part of that is when you just walk around a motorcycle from eye level, you only get to see a small part of what you're actually looking at. When you do a photo shoot, you get higher than eye level, lower than eye level. You get into places, the camera can go in places that you really don't see all the time. But then every once in a while you do see it. And if I'm walking down the porch of the house and I'm looking down at the motorcycle, it looks very different. Now, today's project, those little side covers, now I have the opportunity to go to the previous photo show that I did a couple of days ago, and I can make some before and afters. How does it look with that area open? How does it look with the area blue? Now, I know most people don't care at all. They just go buy a motorcycle and take a ride. Well, there's some people that do care, that every little part and angle should be polished and detailed. Now, those silver wheels, that was a major change to the motorcycle. That was 16 work days of 4 to 6 hours a day. But in the end, did it pay? Well, for some people, I don't think it would pay. I don't think they'd even bother wiping the wheels off. But for me, it pays, because to me, the passion of looking at these polished parts, and when I take the motorcycle out for a ride and I sit back and look at it while I'm eating a bagel or a salami sandwich,
it's everything to me. It's very, very important. And I do realize that to some people, it is not important at all. Now, the next thing is the scoops. I wanted to get some different screening for those scoops. That is a good example of when you walk by and the wheels are turning. You don't get to see that view very often. But when you do see it, from time to time you see it, I say, whoa. So when I'm trying to plan the next step of a project, and by the way, that chain guard worked out great, I want to see it from as many angles as possible. The windshield, I was very happy the way that striping matched the tank. Still thinking about putting a small stripe on a front fender at some point in time. Not sure if that'll happen. I'm not sure I was even going to put a little stripe on the side covers with the matching little, maybe that little MT09 logo. I'm not sure. Like, a lot of choices. And I always like that I can look at it at my leisure, sit here with a cup of coffee or with a snack or something, and really look at it and say, what is the next step I want to do to the motorcycle? What do I want to change? If you were to look at this bike the day I bought it and look at the pictures I have, that was the day. It wasn't even here. It was at the dealer. And I put those pictures next to this project now, how this came out. You would think it's a whole different motorcycle. Now, it's been a labor of love. It's been a lot of hours and a lot of polishing and a lot of detailing. But on the other hand, it's stuff that I did one step at a time. And that's the point I wanted to get across to people if I could. By doing it one step at a time, this is the first restoration I've ever done that way. I've always done them where pull a whole bike apart and parts laying all over the cellar. There was times with that FCR you couldn't even walk down my cellar. But having done this now where I do it one step at a time, and with John's help, and with Karen's looking at things like the logo, you go look at the old logo before, after. And a lot of times when I see it, I go, it's a major thing to do those logos. Those little side covers cleaned up the bike. Amazing, amazing. 3 days, that was a 3-day, I count all shop projects and how many days it takes me to do them. And pretty much we share a video every day. So if you figure it out, you can kind of rough in how many hours go into some of these projects. But again, I don't count any of the hours. I count that when the bike is done and I'm happy with it, I forget about how many hours. And I think about the Italians. There's a saying the Italians have. They do things, they build cathedrals and whatever, as if time did not exist. So I hope you did enjoy the video. We're ready to go down and look at these pictures down on the computer, do some Photoshop on them maybe. And in the long run, plan out what the next modification we want to make. We still have a list, 7 or 8 things on there, and I don't know what I want to do next. But I know in the next couple of days we're supposed to get some nice weather for riding, up in the 40s, maybe the 50s, who knows. So either way, I never want to give up a riding day, but this worked out so well. Those side pieces, I had a lot of anxiety it wasn't going to work out. It worked out great. So this is why these photo shows that I do, they seem to work out for me. They've worked out on this project. I can do this before and after. I can look at how do the wheels look blue, how do the wheels look silver. Now, because of the help of John Pothier, I can do it without even painting the wheels silver. He usually can do this with Photoshop. I can't do that yet. I can look at a stock part, and how would that part look in blue? Well, how would it look in silver? And several times these headlight covers, I've seen them in blue and I didn't like them. So the logos, when you can see the logos ahead of time, Yamaha, I think, dropped the football here with that logo missing a corner. Well, I like my logo better. Maybe you like the Yamaha one. But all of these small bolts, seeing these bolts on the side of the frame, and the bolt, to me, it doesn't look finished. It looks like an unfinished motorcycle. But again, everything we do is subjective and in the eye of the beholder. So we never have to have an argument about, I like it yellow, you like it green, I like the silver wheels, you like the blue wheels. We could still be friends, and it's all for fun anyway. And one of the things a lot of people, even some of my friends, sometimes you lose sight of the fact, motorcycling is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be enjoying the people you hang out with, the people you ride with, the people you interact with when you're working on your motorcycle or buying parts on the internet. Or my grandson coming over to help me wax the tires with the Carnauba wax. Anyway, it's all for fun, and it's all, I always think it just couldn't be any better to be a nice warm summer day, be out on a motorcycle, have a credit card in your pocket to buy all the gas you want, and meet up with your friends, eat a couple extra bagels. I don't know that life ever gets any better than that. Maybe if you have polo ponies, it does. But we post a video every day. And thanks so much for watching.